Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days in today's video. This takes us more or less to the end of August, going through to the end of summer. We'll go up to around the 28th, I think, of August with this update. Looks like it's going to be staying a bit mixed, and there could be some quite wet weather coming up at the weekend, so we'll look at all the detail on that in a moment. But before I go on with that, just very quick to say about the ads. There's linked articles on all the pages at gavsweathervids.com. Have a browse through the widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go off and read the article, and thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most pages. They open out in the content, and when you watch them, they'll close back up again. Thanks very much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. I thought we'd just very quick start off with the central England temperature, just to show you what's going on for August. We're around where we have been throughout the summer, actually, which is we're not deviating very far from average. So provisionally, up to yesterday, 17th of August, we stand at 16.1, which is an anomaly of just 0.1 of a degree above average. So we're more or less bang on average for August, and that's where we've been through the summer. So June came out at 14.0, which is 0.2 of a degree cooler than average. And July came out at 15.9, which is 0.1 of a degree cooler than average. So very much around average this summer with the temperature through the central part of England. Anyway, it's been a much cooler summer, though, up in the north. And when we do the verification for the summer, once we get through to next month, we will have a look at the temperatures throughout the whole of the UK. And I think they'll be very enlightening to see how bad it's been in the north, and comparatively how much better it's been down in the south. But in between, sort of through central England, it's been around average with the temperature. This, of course, is an old temperature average, so we do have to bear that in mind. This is set against 61 to 90. So we're coming out around average for the 61 to 90 temperature average. If we was to set this against a more modern average, let's say 81 to 2010, then it's probably a poorer summer in terms of the temperature than this implies, because this does take into account 61 to 90, the very cold decade of the 1960s, which had loads of cold winters and also really cool, miserable summers. But that decade is sort of a deviation from particularly the last few decades, where it's tended to be milder in the winter and also hotter in the summer. So if we was to set this against a more modern average, it would probably be an even poorer summer than this is suggesting. In any case, only around average temperatures, and with only had one sort of real burst of heat, which was at the start of July, of course, just a few days, and we did break records right at the start of July. This radar picture from the Weather Outlook, and this is quite interesting. Just want to throw this one in because we've got rain in the east and it's dry in the west. Normally you have it the other way round. With the winds coming in from the west, we tend to get most of the wettest weather on the western side, but today west is best, and it's the eastern coastal counties that are really cool, wet and miserable. So it's not a great day to be on the east coast, to say the least, particularly through northeastern England and eastern parts of Scotland, where that rain does look very heavy and persistent. You will need your brolly if you're off on the east coast today. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly map from NOAA. This was generated yesterday, 17th of August. A couple of interesting points here. We've got the El Nino developing still across the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. We'll be doing the next El Nino update on Sunday, so I don't want to say too much about that. But more specifically for our summer fate, anyway, is this cool body of water in the northern Atlantic Ocean. The temperature anomalies in the northern Atlantic are probably at their coolest that they've been since maybe the early 1990s, perhaps even going back into the 1980s. And I think this does, or it does partly explain anyway, why we've had such a poor summer, particularly in the north and west, of course, where we're close to this cool water. It's definitely had an effect, I think, of pulling the temperature down further than you would typically come to expect, particularly in the last sort of couple of decades when we've been within the warm cycle of the Atlantic Ocean. We've been in the warm AMO, which is the warm multi-decadal oscillation for the Atlantic. And we've gone cold with this over the past few months. I think this is probably going to moderate over the next year or two. I don't think we're definitively going into a cold AMO yet, but it's sort of telling us where things will be going, particularly as we get through into the 2020s and 2030s, when the Atlantic decadal oscillation will flip into its cold phase. I don't think this is the definitive flip yet, but it's just the start of where things are going to go over the next 10 to 20 years. But within the next 2 or 3 years, I expect this to actually warm up quite a lot. But this has definitely had an impact, I think, on our summer, on pulling down the temperatures. Right, let's get on with the weather for the next 8 to 10 days. Then we've got the 500 millibar high anomaly flow charts here. Now, I've done something a bit different with these. I'll flip them around, so you're not having to strain your head to try and find the UK anymore. It means that the ECMWF is now on the top of the screen, and the GFS, you can't really see it yet, but I will scroll down to it in a moment, the GFS is down there on the bottom. Now, 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere, a high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by the jet stream running above. And on these charts, blue extrapolates to low pressure and orange extrapolates to high pressure. What is quite clear from the ECMWF is that we've got a big trough of low pressure sitting just to the west and the southwest of the country, with the jet stream going rather like that. So it is an unsettled chart, quite obviously, with that low pressure in the central part of the Atlantic, no doubt throwing up rain bands into the UK. We have got some ridging to the east of us, but really it is the trough that's in control there, certainly over the coming week or so. And the GFS is very similar, although there is a subtle change, which is that the ridge to the east is a little bit stronger there over Scandinavia. So consequently, the trough is a little bit further back in the Atlantic, but nevertheless, it's the same sort of pattern. It's unsettled. With ridge being a bit stronger, though, we could be bringing up more sort of southerly influences, so it may be a little bit warmer on this chart, but it's still an unsettled type scenario, really, with low pressure pretty dominant. Let me know what you think to that idea of flipping these around so that you don't have to turn your head around. The downside of this is that we can't see them side by side as we can when we have them in the normal view. So just let me know what you think about that via the comments. The GFS temperature and precipitation ensemble, so the next couple of weeks, dealing with temperatures first of all. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average. We're going to be a bit up and down with the temperatures. We're starting off pretty cool. It is a pretty cool and wet and miserable day in the east today. The temperatures will be lifting up through the rest of the week, going a little bit above average by the time we get through to the weekend. The dates are on the bottom of the charts, of course. Then we dip back down again at the start of next week before maybe lifting up again as we go right through to the end of the month. So rather up and down with the temperatures. But once you average it all out, I would suspect we'll come out quite close to average, really. The precipitation spikes are there, so we've got some rainfall coming up tomorrow and through into Thursday, and then quite a lot of rain potentially over the weekend and into the start of next week. We'll have a look at that in a moment. After that, to the end of the month, the start of September, we may get a slight drying trend, but it doesn't look particularly settled, I have to say, even into the start of September. It may settle down a little bit more, though, by the time we get through September. Temperature anomaly from the 18th through to 26th of August looks like this. A little bit above average, really, with the temperature, so not doing too badly for the latter part of the summer. Not a hot period by any means, but maybe going a little bit above average, particularly in the south. The rainfall anomaly is going a bit above average, so fairly warm but wet, looks like the signal going through to the latter stages of the summer. So here's the generic chart. This is GFS for Saturday. Still the idea, really, we've got ridging to the east and low pressure to the west. Now what's going to happen through the weekend is that low pressure is increasingly going to develop from the south and the west. So for Sunday we could be bringing up something thundery from the south, and then we've got this low pressure developing in the southwest approaches. Got to watch out that, because that could become quite a significant feature through to the start of next week. Here it comes on the GFS as to 995 millibars. Quite a deep area of low pressure for the time of year. It could have a lot of heavy rain associated with it as well. So that takes into a very unsettled start to next week. And we can see how the rainfall goes with that. So Saturday is a mostly dry day. Sunday we have a risk of heavy showers or thunderstorms, or maybe even prolonged bouts of thundery rain coming up from the south. This is the rainfall forecast for midday Sunday, and this lump of rain down in the southwest approaches is back developing low pressure. That could give us quite a wet and maybe even quite a windy day on Monday. So Sunday, Monday at the moment looking really quite unsettled indeed. After that, the low pressure gets out of the way and we go into a westerly flow, and then through the middle part of next week maybe building up some sort of ridge across the south, but it's still unsettled up in the north. We end up, by the time we get through to day 10, which is Friday 28th of August, that ridge is trying to hang on in the east, but it looks like it's being flattened off really by low pressure from the west, but maybe pulling in the winds from the south, so that explains why the temperatures do go up a bit later next week. The East MWF looks like this. Very similar conditions for Saturday. I think Saturday will be a mostly dry day. As we go through into Sunday, though, there's that low pressure developing out in the Atlantic, and we're possibly bringing up something thundery from the south as well on Sunday. Then that low pressure becomes a major feature. It's 985 millibars, the centre of that low pressure on Monday across Ireland. That's bringing in loads of heavy rain across the country. You notice from the isobars, they're tightly packed, so we'll be winning as well. Almost shades of autumnal conditions with this for the start of next week. And then that low pressure clears out of way to the north, allows a bit of a ridge to build to the south. It stays generally quite unsettled though, with the next area of low pressure coming into the north and west, bringing some rain through the middle part of the week, and that all sort of trundles across the country as we go through into the latter stages of next week. Remember, we saw on the height anomaly chart that the ECM is more unsettled really than the GFS, and this is the confirmation of that, with the ridge to the east quite a bit weaker. So it looks like we're going to continue pretty unsettled really through to the end of summer. It's going to stay more or less as we've had it through the summer, with the north and west tending to be worse than the south and east, although today is a bit of a flip on that because actually it's wetter in the east and drier in the west. But the overall theme for the next week, 10 days, is going to be more unsettling in the northwest, drier in the east. Temperatures a bit up and down, maybe coming out quite warmish at times, particularly next week. But overall it's mixed, and it's not a great end to I think what will be remembered as a pretty mediocre summer, to be honest. Well, it's a 5-day forecast tomorrow, so come back for that. Later on today we'll be having a look at the August bank holiday weekend on the events page. We did the first update on that on Sunday. I'll have another one for you this evening. That's it for now then, and thanks for watching.